In this video, we're going to take a look at how to use xparticles and noise to control particle scaling. This is the effect we're going to go for. So what we have is we have a base object, and then we're creating the particles on top of the base object, and we're going to use a noise falloff to control how the scale works. So let's get started and set that up. First thing we're going to do is create our base object. For this we're going to use a sphere, but any shape will work. And we're going to change the type to icosahedron. And the segments we're going to set to about 50, and later on we can increase that number to create more particles on the surface. So with our base sphere set up, we're going to go to xparticles and create a system, and we'll create an emitter. The emitter is going to talk to the object, so we want to create the sphere and the object's link, and we want polygon center, and we also want one particle per source element, so we'll enable that. We'll go to our emissions, change the emission mode to shot, and our speed to 0. We're going to go to the extended data, and we're going to enable tangential rotation so that they face out with the normals. We can go to our display and give our particles a new color. Let's just go for a pink. And what we'll have if we go up one frame is a particle on every face. So that's good. Now we need geometry for that. So we're going to go and we're going to create a cylinder, and we'll bring this to the side for now. Go back to frame 0, and the cylinder we're going to set to 6 segments, so we get a nice hexagon, and we can just scale this down. So then we're going to put that inside a null. The reason we're going to put that inside a null, actually we'll do it by using Alt-G. The reason we want to put it inside a null is because we can change the rotation of the null. So what we're going to do is we're going to move our null position to the bottom of the object, and we're going to turn the Z axis so it's pointing straight up. That means that our object will orientate correctly on the surface normals. And we want our cylinder to be really small in the y-axis, so let's say 2. Make sure it's in the same orientation with the null, so just move that down so that it's sitting on this, the base of this null is the same as the base of the object that we're creating. And we can change the radius. We might be able to tweak that later. So let's put that into center of the scene. Put that into center because we don't want to see it. And we're going to get a generator. Drop that into the generator object and then link the generator to the emitter. Leave everything else because we want to talk to particle scale. So if we go up a frame now, we should get a particle on every surface, and that's good. We might have too many, so let's lower our surface down to about 40, just so it keeps the speed of the recording up. Okay, that's good. And just drop this radius down a bit. Like so. Anything will work, you can use any object for this effect. Okay, so that's creating the object on the surface. And what we want to do is we want to scale them with the noise. And what we're going to do, we'll go to modifiers, choose scale, and with the first one we're going to label this one scale out, and that's going to create the particles that come out, the scaling that comes out. And we're going to change some values, so we change the scale change to 0, 0, and we'll use 3, and we'll set these to 100. And what that means is the scale changes on the X, Y and Z is only going to happen on the Z, which, as you know, we changed the orientation of our particle to be Z pointing with the normal, so we're going to use that as our scale up, and then just an upper scale limit. I'm going to go to the falloff tab and change the shape to xpNoise, and we'll change the shape from a box to a sphere, and we'll set the sphere scale to 50%. Then you can leave everything else as it is, and you can change the noises later on if you want. So if you push play now, it's simply going to scale the particles out. You'll see a little bit of noise happening, but that's all it's going to do. To help speed it up, we'll also set the generator to clone type create render instances. That will help just make it a little bit faster. Okay, so we've got it scaling out, like so, but that's still not quite what we want. We want them to go back in as well. So to do that, we're going to copy the xparticle scale, and we'll call this one in. And with that one selected, we'll go to the Objects tab and change the value from 3 to -3. So that means it can go backwards. And we'll leave everything else as it is, but we need to offset it. And the way we're going to offset it and also get the noise movement is by using the vibrate tag. So select both of the objects, Cinema 4D tags vibrate, and we'll set the amplitude to 360 and the rotation for each channel. So just copy that, paste it, and paste it. Then set the frequency down to 0.2. We want to select one of the tags to offset it, so we're going to select the N. We're going to change the seed to about 3. That means there's going to be a slight offset between each of the rotations. Then you can see we've got the effect where the particles are going in and out based on the noise. Now our scale looks like it's too big for this scene, so we can go in, we can lower this down. Let's try 1, and you can adjust this as you need. So that's not too bad. I'm also going to set this down to a smaller height. Let's put it to 1. So it's on the surface better. And we'll change this to a little bit higher. Let's go for 1.5. And as I said, these are completely adjustable to whatever you need them to be. So that's looking good. And that is in fact the basic setup. That's all you need to do to get the look. We've got a problem here where they're coming off the surface, and that just means that our objects aren't next to the null anymore. So let's go back to frame 0 and we'll hide our sphere. And you can see it's gone off away from our null too much. So let's just drop that down. That should fix that problem. Okay, next thing we do is we want to make a copy of the base sphere and enlarge it so that it covers a lot of the surface particles, and all you're getting is the ones that are coming out of the surface. Like so. And you can adjust the speed. If that's going too fast, just lower the frequency down. Like so. Now with this setup, you can do things like adjust the size of the noise by adjusting the scale of the fall off. So if it's bigger, you'll get a bigger noise. And again, obviously if it's smaller you'll get smaller noise. So let's set that back to 50 and look at how we texture this. So we'll get a nice shot like so, and we'll create a new material. Material selected, we're going to turn off reflectance because we just wanted to look at the color for now. And we'll go to texture, we use gradient. With the gradient we're going to change the type from 2D U to 3D spherical. That's going to create this little mat here, and we can change the position of the points like so, and we want to give it a color, so let's make this one a pink or whatever color you want, and we'll leave the black. I'm going to change the start position to 0, and we're going to change the radius to about 200%, and what we're doing is creating basically a fall off with the radius. I'm going to change the space from object to world, and we can drop this on the particles and also the sphere. So you can see it's creating the points, but they're not getting high enough to get any of the color information. So go back to your material and then just simply drag down the radius until you get the effect that you're looking for. So you want the particles poking out of the surface, and the surface can be any color. If we want that to be white, just simply make it white, and then you get the pink coming out of the white surface. Like so. So you can see how the gradient changes. The higher they get from the surface, as they pull off, they change color. I'm going to set that back to black just because I like it. It looks stronger as a black. Take that back up so you get full black. And again, depending how many you want is where you drive this parameter. So you can see how quickly that was to set up, and it's very easy to change the shape. Or what you can do is you can actually make this into a digital asset that you can share and have user data to control that. And I've got one of those set up, and I'll show you what we've got. So what we've built is this little system where you've got a few options. So we've got the basic sphere and our particles coming out changing color, and with the color you can change those simply to whatever you want. So that's easy to tweak, and you can change the base mesh and the particle object, as well as options for the noises. So if you want them to be bigger, the noise scale to be bigger, and the noise types, it's all driven by Espresso. So you can see how quickly it was to change that. You can change the noise type to get completely different effects. This system will be available to download with the video. So you can see I've changed the noise and you're getting a really nice effect there. And as far as changing the shape, what we've created is a bounding area. So if you look at the bounding area, what you need to do is create your base shape inside this area. So let's say we want the particles to come from a platonic. Just make sure the platonic sits within that area. Let's set the segments to about 10. Pull this down and hide it from the scene. Select the null and just drop it into the base mesh shape. And you can see it instantly updates, and then the effect is created on the surface of the new object. And that can be any object you want, and you can also change the particle object. So let's say you want that to be spheres or something else. Create a sphere. What you have to do, or remember to do, is make sure that the object that's going to be in has to be flat. So we're going to scale that down on the y-axis. Hide it now and drop that into the particle object, and you can see it's creating a completely new look, and the reason it's turning black is because it's going past that fall off from your material. So this is the material. So if you want it to be higher or smaller, you just simply change the sphere. And let's go back and just make sure that they don't go quite so big. So let's set that to about 2. And we can adjust that. And you can create a completely different look using a different object. So that's a bit more organic. So let's have one last look at the final output.